New York is home to the most billionaires and millionaires of any city in the world, and yet one man stands out as the most hated billionaire in New York City. James Dolan, a man so hateable that he makes New Yorkers cheer on ambulance-chasing lawyers and the local government people whose only job is to tax you for drinking a beer. He is the owner of the New York Knicks, the New York Rangers, and Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, the Beacon Theatre, and Tower Restaurants, meaning he has a lot of power over entertainment in New York City, and the way he operates has put him at the center of numerous controversies over the years. And James Dolan doesn't do himself any favors, getting fans kicked out of matches, banning alcohol sales to spite the local government, and even using facial recognition to identify and ban lawyers working against him. James is also the frontman of a band that is open for many large artists at venues he happens to control, and for some reason they forgot to book the band to open at other venues he doesn't control. And the stupidest thing I've ever read is how a judge described the actions of Madison Square Garden in sending a letter to 90 law firms suing his companies, warning them not to step foot in Dolan's venues, citing concerns about improper disclosures that could arise from plaintiffs' lawyers entering its venues. The judge mocked this further by saying they might do something as horrific as watch a play, a sporting event, order a hot dog, or use the bathrooms, these sort of threatening acts. However, the pettiness has to be admired. The judge also related it to McDonald's banning lawyers from buying Big Macs. But the situation got a whole lot pettier from there. Use of facial recognition technology. James Dolan was not content with just sending a letter to scare the law firms, he actually followed through with the threat by using facial recognition technology. To put it in perspective, imagine that you cannot support your local sports team, see a big name band, comedian, or show, because you work at a law firm that is handling a case, but you are not even on that case. On November 5th, a lawyer was kicked out of MSG before a Knicks-Celtics game. The law firm that he works at had filed a suit on behalf of a fan who fell from a skybox at MSG during a Billy Joel concert, but the lawyer himself is not even involved in the case. On November 27th, a lawyer was blocked from entering Radio City Music Hall while trying to take her 9-year-old daughter's Girl Scout troop to the Rockettes Christmas Spectacular. So she had to stand outside for 90 minutes in a rainstorm because the company she works at has an ongoing case against a James Dolan restaurant. She too is not even working on that case. And on January 10th, a lawyer was stopped from entering the Garden for a Rangers game because he works for a firm suing MSG, which was the final straw for local politicians. Now MSG and James Dolan are currently under investigation by the New York State Liquor Authority for using facial recognition technology to identify people to ban from venues. The agency is concerned about the ethical implications of such an action and is investigating whether it violates any rules or regulations related to the use of facial recognition technology, which has sparked concerns about privacy and civil liberties, as well as the potential for abuse of the technology. In response to the investigation, a Madison Square Garden entertainment spokesperson said, "We are disappointed that, with all the challenges that the residents of this city and state face today, these elected officials have chosen to focus on taking up the cause of a small group of attorneys who are defending ticket scalpers and other money grabbers so they can attend sporting events and concerts." Which, look, there is a lot of spin there, but you can argue that lawyers can go over the top and there is a space to debate the legal field and how they operate, but this clearly is not the way to do that. However, James Dolan took things to a whole new level. James Dolan made a statement on Fox 5's Good Day New York, where he said in part, "We're gonna pick a night, maybe a Rangers game, and we're going to shut down all the liquor and alcohol in the building." This statement was seen as a defiant response to the investigation and a threat to the agency. It was also seen as potentially a harmful decision, as the Rangers in Madison Square Garden generate significant revenue from the sale of alcohol. And it shows a significant lack of respect to fans who want to enjoy a beer while watching their team play. Dolan's statement sparked concerns about the potential impact on the bottom line of both MSG Sports and MSG Entertainment, as well as the potential consequences for shareholders given MSG Entertainment is a publicly traded company. While the Rangers of Madison Square Garden generate about $140,000 in profit from alcohol per game, shutting down alcohol sales could result in a loss of millions of dollars in revenue for the companies. Since the Dolan family controls the voting shares of both MSG Sports and MSG Entertainment, his actions would directly impact shareholders of both companies. It is self-sabotage, but given there are other shareholders, it raises question of its impact on minority shareholders, which has led to criticism of his business decisions and calls for him to reconsider his response to the investigation. According to Forbes, the move to ban alcohol sales would result in a potential loss of $3 million each for the Rangers and Madison Square Garden. And perhaps fans could accept using facial technology to block lawyers if their team was actually performing well. Poor performance of the Knicks. Dolan's ownership of the Knicks has been marked by the team's poor performance, which has frustrated fans for years. New York has the Yankees, an undisputed powerhouse of sport whose dominance is largely linked to the owner's willingness to outspend any other team and management. And as one of the major markets in the world, the city with the most millionaires and billionaires happens to have a mediocre basketball and ice hockey team with the same owner. In 2014, Forbes ranked the Knicks as the most valuable basketball team despite the long-time lackluster performances. And the Knicks' poor performance in the NBA has been largely blamed by fans on Dolan's management. Taking over in 1999, they have not made the championship, let alone won one, and struggled to even make the playoffs in the majority of those years. And when they have, for the most part, they lost in the first round. The Knicks have had a losing record for the majority of Dolan's ownership, and all of this has led fans calling for him to sell the team. Even the NBA Commissioner David Stern in 2007 criticized Dolan's management of the Knicks, saying they're not a model of intelligent management. Under Dolan's ownership, the Knicks have consistently underperformed and have been criticized for a lack of success not just on the court, also for a series of controversial decisions off the court. Dolan has been criticized for his handling of the Knicks front office, coaching staff, and player personnel. He has also been accused of micromanaging the team and making decisions without consulting the front office or coaching staff, leading to a lack of stability and consistent leadership. One high-ranking MSG official said, "They're more paranoid about what's written in a 50-cent newspaper than they are about handing out $5 million a year to somebody who can't play. Winning the media game is more important than winning the game." Which is ironic because down the line, that seemed to go out the window. Handling of the Charles Oakley incident. In 2017, former Knicks player Charles Oakley was forcibly removed from Madison Square Garden during a Knicks game after an altercation with security. This incident sparked a public feud between Oakley and Dolan, which led to a lawsuit and further criticism of Dolan's handling of the situation. Fans and media outlets accused Dolan of overreacting and mistreating a fan favorite, which only added to the negative perception of Dolan as an owner who was out of touch with fans and unwilling to listen to their concerns. In a lawsuit that was later thrown out and subsequent media interviews, Oakley had blamed James Dolan for the incident. The Spike Lee incident. Film director Spike Lee, a season ticket holder for over 2 decades, clashed with security over the use of an elevator. Spike said he had been using an employee entrance for more than 2 decades, but the Knicks wanted him to use the arena's entrance for celebrities, which was 2 blocks away. Spike Lee said, "I'm being harassed by James Dolan and I don't know why." In both these incidents, Lee and Oakley specifically blamed James Dolan for orchestrating the issues, rather than the security or the organization, which adds to the reputation of unpopular decisions being made by Dolan's personal vendettas. Dolan has also been criticized for his unpopular decisions, such as firing popular head coaches and not investing in the team's roster. One of the most criticized moves was trading away fan favorite players such as Latrell Sprewell and Stephen Marbury, not matching an offer for Jeremy Lin, the overspending on players who didn't work out, and so on. Dolan has also been criticized for his handling of coaching staff of the Knicks, hiring and firing multiple coaches over the years. This constant change in leadership has contributed to the team's lack of success and stability. Interactions with fans. James Dolan has been involved in several controversies with fans of the Knicks, which have further fueled the negative perception of him. Dolan once received a letter from a lifelong Knicks fan, and in turn, Dolan wrote back telling the fan to root for the Nets because the Knicks don't want you, and that the fan was a sad person and probably an alcoholic maybe. In 2019, Dolan threatened to ban a fan from Madison Square Garden for life for shouting at him to sell the team. In response, some fans made t-shirts on St. Patrick's Day which they gave away for free saying, "St. Patty says ban Dolan," and some of those were confiscated before entering the arena. And 2 years later, a fan was removed from Madison Square Garden for wearing a ban Dolan t-shirt. These incidents sparked outrage amongst fans as the ban was seen as heavy-handed and further demonstrated his reputation for being out of touch with the fans and their concerns. The Rangers. To be fair, the New York Rangers haven't had as many controversies, but he did oversee most of the franchise's longest playoff drought. However, one notable misstep took place when Dolan spoke of the team's Stanley Cup chances in January 2012. The head coach John Torella was not impressed and said, "I have my owner up in here talking about a Stanley Cup. That's a bunch of bullshit. We need to take it one game at a time." The band. James Dolan is the frontman of JD and the Straight Shots, a band which one reviewer described by saying James sings like he's trying not to cough, and it's possible he can't play the guitar. Worse, his songs belie his status as a cosplaying bluesman. Most of his lyrics simply summarize current events or books that he's read as if he were presenting a 10th grade English class project. JD and the Straight Shots have opened for the likes of the Eagles, the Allman Brothers, ZZ Top, Jewel, Keith Urban, and the Dixie Chicks. According to Deadspin, the band's fifth album, Ballyhoo, sold only 113 copies in the first 4 months after its release. Being in James's band, though, has gotta be fun. They fly in private jets and stay in expensive hotels, eat at luxury restaurants, well above the standard for an opening act. And letting him open for you has its benefits. When he opened for Jewel on her tour, he said Jewel travels with us. And how did James Dolan get so rich? Spoiled boy. Well, he happened to be the son of cable TV pioneer Charles Dolan. Sports Illustrated once said, "The tales of Jim's drug and drink-addled past, his volcanic temper, his shifting moods were already legendary, fueling the image of a spoiled boy who had been handed the keys to perhaps the most prized property in all of US sports." Although in a moment that seems like it would be fresh out of The Office, he also acknowledged this to a captive audience of MSG executives. When he performed a parody of the Bruce Springsteen song Born to Run with the lyrics, "You should have got out while you were young because I have something to tell you, I'm Chuck Dolan's son." According to Sports Illustrated, both current and former high-level employees from the Knicks, the Rangers, Madison Square Garden, MSG Network testify to Dolan's need to constantly reassert his place at the top of the food chain. They speak of a reign of fear or culture of paranoia in which people are more concerned with pleasing Dolan than doing an exemplary job. Most speak only under a guarantee of anonymity. In 2005, Dolan got upset that the projected costs for broadcasting the NHL on MSG Network were going to be significantly more than 2004. And people in the room tried to point out that in 2004, the NHL went through a lockout, and yet he wouldn't believe it and thought he was being taken. The president of MSG Network resigned not long after, and Dolan did later try to apologize, but it was too late. To be fair, both Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky have openly defended Dolan in his ownership of the Rangers during their time there. He also donated heavily to charity, organized large benefits, and even took a likening to players who had alcohol issues and had taken them under his wing to help them. And it seems Dolan wanted to play music from a young age, but his parents' disapproval prevented him from being able to follow his dream. And in some ways, he lives the life we all want to. Spending wildly, running sports teams, and being vengeful towards people who upset us, and even finding the most unique ways to do so. And even following our passion, being able to perform on famous stages, opening for legitimate rock stars, making people listen to our music, and even making people apologize to us for our mistakes. It's very easy to hate James Dolan, and he only has himself to blame for that. But in a lot of ways, James Dolan is the vengeful billionaire we all secretly fantasize about becoming. Without that stop wire in our mind that says, as much as I want to be this petty, I'm going to be hated for doing so, and so I probably shouldn't.